All right, hey, welcome back to Navstar, folks. Today we are going to review the Gloster Gladiator by HobbyKing. This is a scale beauty. It is one of the RAF's last biplanes to see combat and has a rich history, which we'll get into pretty soon. I gotta say, this is a beautiful aircraft for the money. Lots of scale detail, looks good just sitting on the shelf. And it flies beautifully, a real docile aircraft. So let's jump right into it, and hopefully we'll answer all your questions, and looking forward to having you aboard. All right, the HobbyKing Gloster Gladiator from Durafly is going to be our next challenge. I don't think it'll be a challenge. I think it's going to be a joy to fly. I'm really looking forward to it. I love flying biplanes, and from what I've heard, this thing's quite capable in the air. So let's get into the unboxing and see how this thing works out. As usual, HobbyKing's got a great setup for their aircraft in the box. Constantly amazed at how well they're boxed and shipped to us here at Navstar, and I expect nothing less here. So we've got a nice set of decals, or decals as they say in the UK, and we'll be putting those on here shortly. A quick setup guide, as well as the full assembly manual by QR code. Got our goodie bag here with our wing struts, our propeller, our wing wires as well. Those are going to be take a little bit of time to put in there, but I'm sure it's going to be worth the effort. Looks like we've got phone wheels, a spinner, pretty substantial one for this size aircraft. The landing gear assembly. Elevators. Looks like a pinch foam connection here. I always run a really super thin bead of hot glue on these as well. Learned that tip from Andrew Newton, and it's kept me in good stead for a long time. It just gives a little bit more reinforcement and doesn't hinder the movement of the flight control surface. So I'll certainly be doing it for that. Like we've got the upper wing, same deal, pinch foam. Looks like it has some cutouts for flaps. I imagine that could be added. I don't know if I'd want to put those on a biplane. It might just be a scale detail. The lower wing as well has the same. Servos are pre-installed. Of course, we'll be testing those before we assemble it to ensure not only that they're functional, but they are in the neutral position. Looks like a pretty straightforward build here from what I can tell. And finally, the fuselage. So I've got a little bit of a ding here on the top coming from the factory. Could probably be smoothed out, but it looks like we may have a little bit of a hit there on the top. I don't hold back on my reviews. If there's something that's not right, I'll definitely bring it to their attention. But no problems functionally. And it looks like we've got a nice little scale cockpit. Of course, I usually order two, so I can FPV one and then keep the other one scale. A foam block. I believe I saw that the foam block was there to secure the battery. It looks like a pretty elegant and simple solution to hold that in place, but ample room for that battery and pretty straightforward wiring. It's probably going to go together pretty quick. Love the scale detail on the motor cowling. And I gotta say, I like the fact that they didn't install the decals on this. Obviously, we'll put on a couple for our review, but I do like to paint my own aircraft. If you take a look at some of my posts, you'll see that the HobbyKing B17 has been painted in the Bitter Lace livery, and it came out really good. My good friend Mike G of Southeast Texas Plane Liveries did that for us. So let's get on to the build, and we'll see how this baby goes together. So the Gloster Gladiator, 1100 millimeters wingspan, flying weight of 1600 grams, a 770 kV brushless outrunner. She might be able to handle something more powerful if you feel so inclined, and is designed for a 2200 4S. I flew her with a 3300 4S, and she handled the extra weight beautifully. 30C or more, I think she can definitely handle more than C, 30C that is. But lots of fun, definitely well designed. But interestingly enough, she's got a fascinating history. She was the Royal Air Force's last biplane and had a significant success in exporting to other countries around Europe. And she saw action in Malta, Egypt, Norway, and even served in the RAF London Air Defense Force for a time. But she played a crucial role in World War II. Roald Dahl, the author, was a pilot for a while. And she had a number of iterations. The Mark I, of course. The Mark II was the 94th Squadron of the RAF. There was a version that was exported as a standard plane for the Royal Norwegian Air Force. And she even saw service with the Naval Air Squadron. A fantastic plane that's perfectly suited for RC. So getting into the assembly, it was a very straightforward build. I appreciated that the servos were pre-installed, and it made it very easy to check for operation and neutral positioning before I assembled the push rods, all of which went in without issue and were quite easy to adjust. It was a little unconventional in that I haven't used that type of push rod before, which has a snap keeper. That's the word I'm using to hold them in, but they worked out really well, and it was pretty easy to adjust during the maiden day. The wing very simply screws into the fuselage with a few well-placed screws, and as well as the installation of the landing gear was very, very straightforward. I struggled a little bit with some of the directions insofar as the actual location of the fuselage struts, which was up and which was down, but after using my noggin for a few seconds, I certainly figured it out. I like using my electric screwdriver, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos. It certainly makes things a lot easier, and it has a really good torque setting on there, so I can provide a link to that one below if you're so inclined. And I prop up my iPad at the workstation, which is a recent development here at the Navstar shop, and I'm going to stick with it. It makes for easy access to the documentation when you're assembling an aircraft. The struts and the upper and the lower wing snap together quite easily, and without too much drama was able to get them affixed to one another. You could very easily fly the aircraft without putting the wires on. I took the extra time to do so, and I would highly recommend that you do as well. Putting the wires in wasn't difficult. It's just it takes a little bit of time, but it is well worth the effort. As you can see, there's an additional set of push rods that are set up to operate the upper ailerons. Do take care to make sure that everything is adjusted properly. I certainly didn't want to have this aircraft flying around with any difficulty, so take the extra time and care to do that as well. Again, a very straightforward build with the prop assembly and the spinner going on without issue. In intermediate or a new hobbyist to this would have no difficulties whatsoever with assembly. The decals, I kind of learned the hard way how to do this right on another model, and if you take your time and apply them with care and work out all the bubbles, it works great. I would recommend rubbing them until you feel some heat under your finger to make sure it's affixed, and then very, very carefully peel back that upper plastic sheeting, holding it very close to the fuselage or wherever you're doing it, and it'll come right off. You may have to coax it a little bit to get started, And that's all there is to it. So let's get on to the maiden. All right, let's get cracking with that maiden flight, shall we? So I was flying the Turnigy X14 with an ELRS backpack on there. You can see I have a little extra antenna. I did not have a receiver for this system yet, but I do have one now, and I will be testing that later as I'm flying ELRS. But man, she took off great. No problems at all. Gotta dampen my elevator again. I seem to be flying with a lot of extra expo on the elevators on my aircraft, but a lot of fun. This thing with that wind today could almost hover. It's a very docile aircraft. Easy to fly. No issues. You could put this thing in full manual mode and do some really cool snap rolls. And once I figured out what worked for this aircraft, it was really easy to fly. You know, this is definitely not a first plane for a new flyer, but it could be a second or a third. You're going to need a little bit of skill set to get those wires in right, but boy, once they're on there, it sure looks great in the sky as it flies by. You know, I went right up there after a couple of runs down the pattern and felt comfortable enough to execute a few rolls and a few loops. And, you know, gain some confidence on it real quick. This is going to be one of my favorite biplanes now. I got to say, just for the relaxation component alone and the ease of flying, I really super enjoyed this thing. The canopy is well suited for FPV. If you're interested in doing that sort of thing, I always order two. One I can modify for onboard use and another that I can keep for scale. But the Turnigy X14 transmitter performed flawlessly with this combination. You can see I just did a loop up there, and really seems to be finding a spot in my fleet as the line of sight transmitter. Nothing against my Radio Master equipment. That's a different tool for a different job, and that would be for long range FPV. So I really am glad that I had an opportunity to test out the ETHOS system and make it work for my use case. Highly recommend it. Here's another good shot of her coming by with a good headwind, and like I said, she could almost hover if I took the time to back off on the throttle, but you know, a very, very easy and docile aircraft to fly. Responsive if you want it. It's able to fly quite quickly if you choose to fly full throttle, but she'll just putter around at 30 to 50% all day long. And I was able to get 7 to 8 minutes out of the Turnigy 2200 batteries, which those 4S's, I'm really impressed with the Turnigy line. Very reliable, and I think that they are going to be a choice performer for me moving forward on my aircraft. Here's a good shot of her flying by, and yeah, it was definitely windy that day, but I wouldn't say it was challenging. I mean, it was definitely going to be 8 to 12 knots out of the south, and not super gusty, but you'll see later I had a little bit of a problem with the landing as a result. But here's a nice shot of a loop that I did. Instago 360 camera chugging away there with a counterweight on the opposite wing, by the way. And here I come in for my gusty landing. I thought I nailed it, but I didn't. Anyhow, that's kind of the conditions I was working with today. But bonus footage. All right, well, so I was flying around with the Instago 360 camera strapped to the cockpit that I had cut away for FPV use, and well, the darn thing let go. I can't blame the aircraft for that. That magnet held up just fine until I put a heavy little camera on the back, but check this out. It's kind of funny. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, the Gloster Gladiator by HobbyKing. A beautiful aircraft. Great scale detail, docile flyer. I'd highly recommend getting one. As far as I was concerned, this is a very relaxing plane, not only to fly, but also to build. It is a nice piece of work. You could hang this in your office even. It's that pretty. Definitely do the support wires for the main wings. It's worth the extra time and effort. A little bit challenging from here and there, but all in all, totally worth it. The combination with the Turnigy X14 and the 2200 Series 4S from Turnigy are a killer combo and really work beautifully. Could the plane have more power? Yes. Could the plane be a little more aerobatic? I think it can if I choose to set it up that way, but I like it just the way it is. A nice easy flyer. It seems to be a real crowd pleaser. I know the lads over at the club really enjoyed it. And if you're on your second or third aircraft, make it happen. I wouldn't do it as a first aircraft, but once you get some wind under your wings and get out there and do some flying, I think you'll find that this one would be a lovely one to have in your fleet. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody's likes and subscribes. It really means a lot to me, and it's a lot of fun as we've been developing this channel. So you know what, as I always say, have a great day no matter what. Thanks for tuning in.